If you're around people that don't inspire you, that don't know better than you, that don't show you a better way or at least a different way of how you're going about something to allow you to see different options and how you're approaching something, you need to level up.
I like to know where people stand so I know how to treat you accordingly.
Baby trying to do it, I'm just doing me. I be working hard and they just want it free.
Be competitive with yourself.
Hey, what's going on? It's Jsean for another video. Haven't seen you in a long time, but one thing I want to share always is whatever comes to me in real life, in real time, I want to kind of pass it along. I don't care if it's buying an item, my experience with something, my experience with life, What I realize in life is that sometimes we depend on the people closest to us to encourage us, to make us feel like we're doing the right thing. A lot of times those people won't align with the way we think. It's just you have to be aware of it, right? So sometimes you got to keep things to yourself. But when you're trying to motivate yourself, you need encouragement. We're human. You want to feel like you're doing something right. You want to share that information with somebody and somebody to feel like they're giving you a push. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. So I'm just being a third party, neutral person. I have nothing to gain from your success or your failures. And in that, building myself up, I'm going to encourage other people. So that's how I want to motivate. I just like to share my experiences as they happen. And one thing I want you to notice and think about with yourself that I realize with myself as well, it's good to talk, to recognize what your problem is, what's going on. But it's not good to continue to talk, because when you continue to talk, all you're doing is talking and there's no action. So there has to be a level, a point where you have a plan. You need a beginning and an end point. If you ever watch a podcast online, even though it looks like it's not organized, it is. They have bullet points, they have time frames of when and to start, when to end. And you just have to apply that kind of production to your own life, right? You need to make plans, you need to make goals, you need to make end dates. Is very important. No matter how small the goal is, it could be a week goal, it could be a daily goal, it could be a monthly goal, a 6-month goal. So say, for example, it's a 6-month goal. Every month you need to reevaluate how the plan is working out so you can go back and see if there's adjustments that need to be made. Unless it's, cater specifically for someone's personality specifically or something like that. Unfortunately, whether you have something going on in your life, you think and you want friends, family, people close to you to support you, to understand you, to basically align with your thoughts. But unfortunately, it doesn't really work that way 99% of the time. They might talk you out of it. They're not going to align with you, but you don't feel discouraged because of that. Basically, my phone just did something. Basically, just know that that's what it is. This is how people are, right? And I just want to be that neutral person because I've needed this, right? I've expected people close to me to think like me, but the thing of it is, they're just not, and this is why it's important to surround yourself around like minds to level you up, to encourage you. If you're around people that don't inspire you, that don't know better than you, that don't show you a better way or at least a different way of how you're going about something to allow you to see different options and how you're approaching something, you need to level up. And if you can't find people around you that's better than you, well, maybe the problem is that you are not, you don't have enough value yourself to be around that type of people, to circle yourself around people who want to share information with you. So don't get mad. Don't be like, oh man, they're too stuck up, they don't want me around. Well, why would they want you around? Think about that. If you're high up on a certain level and people below you and they want to get information from you, and this is your life, this is something you created, this is something you worked hard for, you put a lot of work into, time, hours, whatever. Maybe it's your career, maybe it's your business, and somebody, just because they want to do something similar or they're interested, why would you take all the time that you put into something and then just give it to somebody? That doesn't even make sense, I'm not saying you won't, or you don't have to or something like that, but in general, that doesn't really make sense. Now, if they had something that they could offer you to help balance you in a different way or in your own industry or whatever the case is, then you start talking, you start networking, you figure out how you guys can basically work together. If you want to say it in a way that doesn't sound so polite, but you guys use each other basically, right? The only time it's bad to use somebody is if you have nothing to offer and you're taking from somebody. That's using. You get what I'm saying? But when you use each other, it's an even exchange. It's not using. That's just a poor choice of words basically. But be valuable, figure out how to create your value, right? And it may be hard because you're sitting there thinking like, well, how do I create my value? I don't know what to do. So who do I ask? I'm trying to get help, Well, you got to start very small. You're gonna create your value in your experiences and everything that you do with doing. unfortunately, I mean, in reality, like, so for me, I did a lot of trial and error in my life, you know, and I feel like if I had the right guidance, I could have skipped a lot of the error. But unfortunately, not everybody has a mentor. Unfortunately, not everybody has that guidance or the step-by-step what to do, you know. Somebody has to always go through it. If you don't happen to know somebody in your network that can help you speed that process up, unfortunately, you have to work harder. That's just what it is. Some people have it a little easier in that perspective or way, and some people do not. You know, unfortunately, me, I just didn't have it. I didn't know people that were trying to do anything I was trying to do. So I made a lot of mistakes, still making mistakes. And sometimes now I just realize I don't want to overwork myself for mistakes. I gotta sit back and instead of moving too quick, I gotta sit here and think for a second. A creative person thinks of things like a typical person, the way they think wouldn't do, right? They wouldn't do certain things that a creative person thinks so. So I feel like being creative allows you to take the leap of faith into something that most people don't understand. That's a good thing. The problem is to sustain it, you have to be logical now. You have to think like those typical people who are too scared to start something in the beginning. They have the right mindset, but they're just too scared to start. If they actually started the process and they started using their logical thinking, analytical thinking, they could actually progress in a good way. So this is why you have to have a balance, right? You can't just think freely to a point where you're not actually making sense of your time. You don't have a plan. Because a lot of times I've done that. You know, I just had this mindset of trying to figure something out, but didn't have a good way to get to that end game. Whatever plan you make, you have to have a beginning and an end. You always have to have a beginning and end. Doesn't matter if the goal is a month, 6 months, whatever it is. And just say, for example, it's a 1 month goal. Every week, go back and reevaluate where you are, how your plan of action has worked so far, and see if you need to make adjustments. Same thing with if it's a 6 month, check every month, whatever the case is. Don't waste your time. Your time is energy. You don't get it back. Your time is wasted. It's money, all that stuff. I don't care if your time isn't actually worth any monetary value yet. Your time is still valuable. You can never get it back. And you could have put that time that you wasted on something to put it on something else that could have potentially got you to a better position in life. If you don't know what you're doing yet, the only way you're gonna know is by trying. Unfortunately, again, some people have it laid out for you and they can tell you exactly do this, do this, do this. But most people don't have that, right? So since you don't have it, most of you guys don't have it, like I don't have it or didn't have it, you have to try. Or you're gonna be sitting there doing nothing, and I guarantee you, you're not gonna make any progress. You're gonna overthink and you're not gonna move. You have to move. Honestly, I have to tell myself the same thing. I'm trying to be smarter now, so I'm not trying to move so quick because I used to move too quick, right? You have to find a balance within yourself, and you know how your character is and how you process information and how you utilize it and actually do the, you know, like, not process it, but as you actually exercise whatever that is, you know? So one thing I will say is when you think of something, do it. Don't wait too long. So for me, I was that way, but I did everything so much that I wasn't even thinking, you know? So you don't want to overthink. So you have to have a balance. You want extremes to some level, but you also want to start leveling it out where you start thinking, start being logical and being smart about things, right? Start trying to do it. But then after a while, when you start getting into motion of doing things, your thoughts, because usually whatever you're thinking of is probably the right thing, but start balancing that out with a little bit of logic, and don't just do anything the whole entire time, just in the beginning to get the momentum going. And then when you see things aren't working or are working, that's when you start slowing it down and kind of evaluate. That's when you evaluate and kind of do things a smarter way and with a smarter approach. But if you sit there and only evaluate, constantly evaluate and overthink, you're definitely never going to start. You're gonna undo your mindset from the beginning. You're never going to be anything doing it that way, you know? So, and don't be the opposite where you're just only doing and never thinking either. That's a bad thing too, you know? So you'll end up bad in a different way, the opposite direction. So I've done that plenty of times. I'm more the do it quick and try to figure it out later. The problem is I didn't have like a balance as far as like, okay, once I started, how do I sustain it? How do I organize my thoughts and my plan to basically where I can make progressive steps? Say like you're a music artist, right? Because I always used to do music and all that stuff, right? I remember like I was working on music, say you're working on a project or whatever the case is. And, you know, a lot of artists out there have experienced stuff like this. And then a year later, somebody's like, oh, what you doing? And you're like, yeah, I'm still working on this album or this mixtape or something. And then like, damn, after a while, you're like, what's the goal? You know what I mean? Like, you didn't progress. If that was your career, you didn't actually take any steps. You're still like building your resume basically, you know? And that doesn't make sense. You got to have progressive steps and timelines so you know no matter what, you have to turn it in, good or bad. It doesn't matter. You have a deadline. If you think about it, have you ever heard like industry artists, they say, oh, we have to turn in our project by this time. I didn't get to finish this record, or we didn't get to master it in time, so we had to leave it off the album. Because there's deadlines. In real life, there's deadlines. Sometimes you're gonna miss some. You gotta come back and put it into the next time, or whatever the case is, but you gotta make progressive steps and keep it pushing. Always try. You have to find your way to do it. You have to be very specific in your goal setting for yourself, what you want. Yeah, I just wanna stop by and just share some type of information, knowledge that's in my brain. I want to just get it out and share it to you guys. I haven't seen y'all in a while, because sometimes I need this. Sometimes it's just therapy for me. I'm just speaking out loud my mind and what's on my mind, and I'm hearing it for myself. I'm like, damn, listening to myself like, damn, you know what? I do need to do that. Like right now, what I said, I need to plan and be more specific. I need to do the same thing. I need to follow my own advice. So I'm not perfect either. I'm just like you guys. That's my point. We all go through this. Sometimes we need to hear somebody. Sometimes we need to hear ourselves. Sometimes we need to hear a neutral person, not a friend or a family. You know, we can't expect them to always have our back in that way, unfortunately, you know? So that's all I'm saying. Make sure you do everything at top level, at your top level. Remember, you're no competition with anybody except yourself. So make sure your next move is your best move, or at least your better move. Till next time, later.